Recording in progress.
Got one time more than one time temporary extension. All right. Appreciate you. Well, I want to start off and give thanks for that. Aloha, welcome home. Jedi Master Lion here with Jedi Master Wilson. Today is the 12th of January 2023 in that calendar. And here we are on the Jedi podcast, and right on cue, Jedi Master Naturalista is joining us. Going to see
where we're at. Oh, wow, that light is shining bright.
for real right now as we do.
Hello, indeed. Let's see, not sure how to manage the crystal light effect here. Maybe turn this away. Hang on, I'll do that little backdrop here of the blue. Are we live? You're sideways. Turn this down. I'm going to reposition here. Is that all right?
Y'all for your patience with, working through the technical things and stuff and whatnot, because we did already press record, Anna. So we are getting a little green room fun. I think, shenanigans can be always a good time. We add that in.
Yeah,
Can you hear
well,
us?
yes, indeed. I like to put the she back in nanigans, so it's perfect.
Hey, man. All right.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's
I
really,
like how
oh,
it says
it's
that.
all right. Now we got loud and clear audio. So thank you for bringing the she and the shenanigans and
Shenanigans.
natural way, Naturalista in the house. So yeah, we're just kind of opening up the space right now, and just pleasure to be here with you on this Jedi podcast on this day here, and welcome home. Brother Russell is with me. We were in last council all together, and so you two have seen, met, and shared space, and it feels aligned given that we're here in the Magical Way Tea Temple at the Enchanted Garden currently. So would love to just hear about where you're at, and speak to us about Regenathrive and anything, where else you might want to go with that. And yeah, it's yours.
Wow. Aho, aloha, and thank you so much. Lovely to see you both and be in the tea garden. I'm in the the Gravity Group office space, and here in Puerto Rico, really enjoying the Caribbean. Nice warm weather, as you are in other island nations, right? Keeping it warm in the wintertime.
Yes. As he's coming from Portland, so
Yes, right.
Thawing.
Yeah.
Thawing.
Pardon?
I'm thawing.
Thawing. Appropriately so. Great. Well, it's lovely to be here with you both. And how about we start with I'd love just to know a little more on the focus of your podcast, so I can address the conversation most directly to your listeners, to those that are in your community, and also be most appropriate to those who are watching or listening, and go from there. We can always open it up, and questions are always fun and inspiring. So please give me a little direction, my dear. I'd love to hear from you, Jenna.
awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It gives me an opportunity to sink into this. I started doing some podcasts with Campaign Aloha when I was running for mayor, and I'm actually wearing the very shirt that was part of that initiation, as I would call it, and kind of a rites of passage into the political branch and realm, but it was built off the same foundation as the Jedi Academy and Jedi Alliance, and really that comes into like a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO or DHO, and then also, you know, really as a community, like where are we aligned, you know? And for me, in this community is a community of peacekeepers. You know, as Jedi, what are we, you know, what is our true purpose in being here, you know, at this time? And feel that we're currently sitting in the headquarters right now of the largest peace and love movement this planet has ever seen. You know, peace is our North Star, and love is the way, is the magical way, right? You know, and unity, right? You know, it's going to take this, you know, and so like it's not a yours anymore, it's an ours. You know, it's not a mine, it's a we's. You know, and to really come in more into that unity consciousness and to share this space together, and this is for our community, you know, and so that's who we're speaking to, is our community, and to look at that both privately and publicly. You know, there's a aspect of doing it in a membership as a private community, and that in the protection, the jurisdiction, the healthy boundaries, the agreements, the contracts, you know, that in there that is open and radically inclusive. And then there's the consent around that. And then there's the sharing with the overall community, because what we're speaking to is important for everyone to be able to have access to the knowledge and wisdom that we're sharing and speaking towards, and giving channels for spirit to show up. So thank you for sharing and asking me that question. And the Most High, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you. Mahalo. Wow. So
and I want to spotlight you. Right? So that's the podcast is now we get to go, okay, here's where we're at. And then it's like, boom, right? So it's like that light, right? Like to share and reflect that light back for each other, and to amplify, you know, that, and be a lighthouse.
I like to share one thing that I think is we are beautiful, just weaving in together of our medicines. Is what I feel in relations here is like what we're doing as a community. We're in a big phase of the healing of community. And I know that what I've been walking with, and what always brought Jonah and I together, is how do we create a community? How do we create the community that we've always wanted to be in? Because we've all been in communities, and some have thrived, most have fallen apart. And why? Because I know true community is reflective of the greater global culture. So how can we take everything that we've learned and actually live it right here? And I remember this spoken word poet down in LA one day he said, heaven is right here in how we are with each other. How are we actually living this together? How are we living heart to heart? Are we being authentic and transparent and vulnerable? And how do we want to do it? What are the values? Because the reason that we suffer as a global culture is we've lost a communal value system. So let's go inward and find out, are we really aligned, and how are we aligned? So the natural way, and that's why when I first met you, I was like, oh yeah. Like it is communion with nature. So let's weave together our medicines and be in the shoes that we need, or in this case, the bare feet that we need to be in, so we can all bring our gifts in the most potent way. And then the synergy is already here. Let's get ourselves in the right, in the right quote unquote position, in the right positions in the mandala, so that light can really shine through in this most beautiful and beneficial way for all humanity and all of life, for the people.
Indeed, Russell. Thank you, brother. Oh, and that is that's my specialty. Building community models, working with harmonic ecosystem template. And thank you. I'd love to open up in that direction. And starting with one of the first questions that you opened our portal here with, Jonah, is where you at? So I love to play the where you at game, because that's where we explore the physical, the mental body, the emotional body, and the energy body. And then we have our causal body. So this is like why you came here. And then the karmic contracts and intuitive nature and magnetism within that. And then the emotional intelligence from the SQ to the IQ. And then the belief system, what you do with that, and where do you feel it in your body, right? Like this is the full dimensional, fifth dimensional realm of where we get to really be in that communion with nature, with the elements of nature, and with the energy bodies of our own existence. So thank you for asking that question, and really getting clear as to what that really means and where you at, my friends listening, right? Where do you feel? Ah, now I'm the host. Hello. Well, let's see if they come back. It'll be all right. Where are you at? Oh, they popped into the ethers. All good. And we're back.
You just blew it up. You just
You just-
completely
yeah,
orbited the entire game.
Totally.
Not again. I know. It's all right. You know, we have a powerhouse trinity happening here. So
Right.
mm,
Okay. When we cut out, did it shift to host to you?
sure did. And then it said that you are back as the host. So you should now also be, yes, you have returned to full host powers.
Well, I'll give you co-host powers anytime, you know, you need it in this as well. So know that that's available if you have any ops you want to share.
We have some appropriate screen sharing come up as we go. So yeah. And here we have the community mandala, and here we have the personal. Yes, we could go there.
We
Yeah.
can.
Absolutely. Now then, from the where you at game, right?
Mm.
This is something I ask my students and clients every time we speak is, you know, where you at? Give it to me on all those levels and all those dimensional realms, so we really have a clear understanding of each other. And that's where in community and living, being born into a spiritual community and an all denominational belief system, and then growing up with the indigenous tribes and all of these incredible elders, it was really clear as a child that I knew this is my path. And the reason I came here is to really find that center point. What is it that we want as a community? How do we build from that loving desire to really share our gifts, what we came here for, our specific talents, what we love to do most, and how we also love to be loved. The reciprocity of a community is something that has been, let's say, reprogrammed in other kind of limited ways that now in our beautiful decade, the most prophesized decade of all time is what we're in. PS, look it up. There's so much happening from every timeline, every culture, every spiritual belief that points to this decade of the real emancipation of community and of the individual value and self-worth, which is coming back to the center of why we commune together, why we come in unity, as that is to be honored in our self-worth, to be reciprocated in that love, and to grow the community from a center point of beliefs. And this is something that I learned very, very deeply working with the Hopi Water Clan and other tribes. This was well before Standing Rock, which I was also a part of, and helping some other movies and media being produced from that now. Yet taking it back to what I learned as the peace negotiation tools. What does it take to get through the conflict resolution so that we can get to the other side of clarity and communication, harmony in how we communicate with each other? It's more than just compassion in action, right? This is like your words, your thoughts, your emotions, how you express yourself. Everything matters now more than ever, because we are all all becoming more and more psychic and intuitive, and we're all wanting to be valued for what our true gifts and abilities and talents are. So what that comes down to in building community, and again, the center point, right, our heart center in that love and that self-worth valuation is, what do you believe? What does everyone believe? What is the common denominator of why you're here and what you love to contribute to? There's something beautiful that I learned many years later with the Damanhur community, where I've since had a home for almost 7 years now, is that the center point of their belief system is based around the temple of humankind, which is honoring, again, all timelines, all cultures, all religions. And this is where they all choose to be there because they are devoted to the center point of that love, of that devotion, of the belief systems around it. And the paths that you can choose for your own individuality also create a higher level of self-worth so that you have more to contribute to. And it's those who contribute more and who serve more that then thy cup filleth over to receive more, right? The happiness, the joy that comes from that natural state of this is what we do and how we do it together, and in individual unique ways that fulfill the community necessity by those individual value points. And this is something that has kept that as a beautiful community that continues to grow and flourish now, going on 4.5 generations. So seeing how many communities and very well-intended, loving people want to do so good and want to try so hard, but it's not about that. It's not about making it happen or trying to force fit different archetypes and people into something. It is by having the solidarity of that unified container, that unified belief that everyone says yes to. And if this community container isn't within your belief scope and your absolute yes, then that's not your community, right? Then good. You know what you don't want, and which gives you more clarity and more magnetism to find and or create the community that you do want. And again, start with the foundational pillars and values that are in the center point of why everyone wants to be there to contribute their love to contribute their value to. So that, Russell, and speaking into what is it, right? And I've seen so many, even companies, right? Companies, corporations, right there on the document, it says entity. What is the name of your entity? Oh, hello, you got a soul of your business now that people tend to forget about. You have a soul of the community, of the essence that is a being, right? There's a reason why every church and temple, regardless of the denomination or belief, has a deity or has a symbol or has something that everyone goes to. What is it that they are praying to? Is it an object, or is it the belief and the energy of that culture that they're magnetized to? Right? It's the desire to be loved. It's the desire to share their love. And that's where I found the consistency of the difference between communities that thrive and that are successful past the 7-year mark. Many can make it up to the 7-year mark, even with some challenges and other misaligned beliefs. Yet those who actually thrive beyond that, those who actually continue to grow and evolve and bring more people and say yes to that opportunity to grow, those are the ones that hold that consistency and who are very, very clear. And it was something I figured out about 5 years ago, and it may have been said this or many other different ways, yet I was in Damanhur and someone mentioned something on a post and said, oh, isn't that where the culty people go? I was like, well, if you want to know the difference, there's a major difference between how a community is run and how a cult may be ran. And I can tell you pretty simply. You want to hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, in a cult, it is very easy to get into. We love you, we want you, you're so pretty, right? All of those things, very easy to get into, very easy to feel special. That's a delicate edge there. Unique, yes. Special, and very difficult to get out of. Very challenging to try to unravel yourself from all of those stories and hooks and we need yous and in and out. That's one story. Now on the community side, there's some application to get in there. You have to have, there's discernment factors. There's a real alignment here that is a little challenging to get into a community. You can't just show up and they're like, yay, everybody come in. No, it's, oh, and why are you here? And what do you believe in? And how are we going to value that which matters to you most in our community at this time? So there's like that level of application. So it's a little more challenging to get into, and it's very easy to get popped out, right? You're out of line, you are disrespectful, and or whatever, you blow your 3 chances of resolving your inner issues with the community support, of course, then guess what? We love you, and it's time for you to find another community, right? You get very, so that's the difference. Either very easy to get in and hard to get out, or in community, more challenging to get in and very easy to get kicked out. So that's a discernment factor that has also kept the integrity, again, of the center point. Of what you believe in, what is true, what you agree to. What are your agreements? You said yes to this and now you don't. So next, right? That's a very, very powerful thing. And in those communities that, again, have community communication, there's a reason why these words came from the same root of coming in unity, right? Is that's again, the essence of getting through conflict, right? Through conflict resolution, we create more trust, more love, more devotion, more unity, more clarity for yourself and everyone else involved. So that communication factor and really speaking and clearly sharing what you know when you feel it. It's another one of the things that I love to share and teach about is, when did you know? When did you know that you felt that something was off? When did you know that you didn't speak your entire full truth? When did you know that you bypassed yourself? That's where you go back to and start speaking in your clarity and integrity. That's where we go back to and say, and take responsibility for being innocent and not knowing better until you do. Until you learn from the community, from the elders, from that real strong foundation of innocence. We love you so much, we're not going to let you get away with that. Love.
What I love about what you're sharing right now is the groundedness around, this conscious mental piece that you're sharing, and spiritual piece, higher piece, but also that you have also created a grounded and practical ways of applying everything that you're sharing right now. And what I want to give a little hallelujahs to brother Raymond Powell right now, because he was working so much in the realm of this protocol.love, and in carrying on continued legacy of the work that we've been doing, on all dimensions and lifetimes, to like ground that in and to continue to carry and picking up the torch, or the flag, and continuing to move forward, and so this love protocol, this space of community, a community of love that is that caring, to be able to be a reflection, someone who will stand up for the highest that we see in each other, to be that, in that level of accountability, and integrity, right? Coming back to Jedi, it's integrity, and this is what, we have all met in that space. And, we all also have this like level of verbal agreements that we've already established with one another to be in the space of having this conversation, and then having both the verbal agreements and the written agreements. I gave Russell the written agreements of the ones he did verbal agreements on the council, just to like stay with the process of initiation and in its integrity, because I've been in communities there that hasn't taken place, and one step is bypassed in that, in the level of brotherhood, sisterhood, ohana, family sense of responsibility and kuleana in that community, our civic responsibility to that starts to like be revealed into, you know, whether or not we're in integrity with that responsibility that I share, that I am agreeing to from the moment I said yes or coming into the community, you know, in that vetting process. So thank you for like opening up all of that. You know, like, what does our love protocol look like? You know, in this Jedi community, I mean, I can lay it down like this quick, and that's what I want to see in the community, is that we all are cultivating the values, the beliefs by simply the way that we are, you know, in our beingness, you know, and that starts with training. It starts with sharing. It starts with the knowledge and the gearing up and the preparation in it. You know, it starts in the academy. So here we are.
Yes.
One thing I like to share in there is we talk about agreements, and just I'm very focused on the, you know, the root of things, like where, and I love that. Where did you know that it went off? Like, because you knew, and out of fear we didn't communicate that. So what that really, how I was very impacted by that. Where it brought me was, you know, about agreements. You know, where do things fall through in the agreement field? It's because people think they understand what the agreement is, and they don't. So they're not agreeing. We're not actually agreeing on a certain level. And that's also, you talked about EQ, which is also very much my Dharmic walk, is emotional healing, the healing of the heart. Yeah. So, and that takes time. And that's why I love the entry is slower. To come in, it's like, are we really aligned? And to really break that insidious dis-ease pattern of that fast food mentality. Let's slow it down. That's not the natural rhythms of life. Let's slow down and really feel if we're in resonance. And in the process, may take some very deep healing of our hearts to see if we're actually in resonance. And most of the world's like caught there on a certain level of conscious in relating. So that's why I love, how do we do community right? How do we do it well? And it takes time and right relations and right skillful means, and a tremendous amount of patience and compassion.
Yes,
Oh.
and innocence. Innocence, right? Because when you realize that you knew that you didn't do what you knew, right?
Mhm.
Hindsight, retrospect can sometimes leave a little heart wound on yourself, because you didn't follow your own truth, your own divine guidance, your own intuition, which means you made an assumption that you were wrong. Right? It's about time we start trusting the assumption that we are correct, because we're feeling that knowing, that again, that divine intuition, that guidance, then, and not bypassing ourselves and realizing in that innocence, in following that, then you will have greater trust, you will have greater outcomes, you will have better and clearer communication and stronger relations. Because of that, when we are most true and honest about what we are feeling when it's happening, not 2 weeks later or 2 years later or whatever it may be. So thank you for focusing on that, Russell. It's definitely a sensitive point, and especially in coming into and creating community, because right now there are several communities that I'm helping to actually build, you know, with the infrastructure, with all of the different energy systems, with the housing systems. And then there are other communities, and I've been a part of the Global Eco Village Network for many, many years. And there are more and more communities that have been, let's say, retreat centers that are now becoming more living centers. Well, how do you then integrate with these places that have been set in their foundational beliefs for so long? And again, this comes back to your center point, is what do you choose? What do you really want to believe in? And the communication of innocence, of, hey, we're all here to to love each other, right? It's what we want. It's what we say we want in community, typically, is that loving container. And you must be honest with yourself first and foremost, in that sweet, innocent way, not in the righteousness, God complex, way of the ego, and also not on the other polarity where the ego is trying to make you small and keep you dimmed down. It's here in the cushy center zone, right? It's feeling and knowing that that innocence is your responsibility. That is leadership. And that's one of the things I learned even in reading about King Solomon and Marcus Aurelius and many other great leaders, that in their most masculine moments, in their greatest battles, They followed the sweetness of their heart and their gut and their intuitive knowing, not their brain and battle warrior. It was that centeredness of peace and love that actually won at that, that period, that juncture. And in new communities now, there's so many tools and resources, so many tribes, so many decades and centuries that we have to learn from what does work. And one of the things I loved learning about Damanhur is that the founders were innocent and responsible enough, right, to know, hey, we don't really know how to do this. We've never done this before, and we're making it up as we go. And we have the divine guidance to look outside ourselves for elders, for help, for what is and has been working. So they gathered many different studies and practices of the indigenous tribes around the world. And they said, oh, this is our center point. Our center point are all of the common denominators that they found among all the hundreds of different communities and beliefs, and distilled it to, I believe, about 38 different points that were the common denominators of every one of those systems, communities, and beliefs. So it didn't have to do with a certain type of God or deity or control system. It had to do with, how do we communicate? What do we want for ourselves? What do we want for each other? And getting really clear on that, so that when something comes up or someone new comes into that space and community, it's transparent. And oh, well, here's where you stepped out of line. Well, here's where I stepped out of line. And here's where we can come back to what we all agreed to. And then there isn't a hierarchy. There isn't somebody saying, you there, kind of a thing. It's, oh, right in your face. Everybody knows that everybody knows. So we might as well be honest with ourselves about that.
Might as well.
Right.
Yeah, I love that there. I've referred to as like, a culture of accountability, and how do we actually do conflict well? And that's one thing that's a training, it's a learning, it's a humbling, it's all of that. And one particular piece there of like, especially the general, like, these governing structures, what does it actually mean? I mean, really the essence of democracy is a healthy system of checks and balances. It's not, I mean, there is a hierarchy, but it's not a hierarchy of, say, a person, hierarchy of values, of which, and I love that, which we are all legitimately, heartfully agreed to. And then we have a system of, I can fall back on, that is actually like the sustaining, nourishing womb, of which we can all relax into because we are held and taken care of. And we have something to literally rely on.
Absolutely.
Which is also fluid.
Oh.
Because also that's part of it too, is like we are a blossoming flower. This is an evolution. And know that we're agreeing to that too, that we're going to flow with the changing tides, and how to do that in a good, finesseful way.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
But y'all are blowing my mind in so many beautiful ways right now. To try to distill it right now, when you shared that piece around Damanhur, and like I did some quick math in my head, and was like 25 in the ecosystem, in the Jedi ecosystem, in regards to like the beliefs, values. There's 25 of them, and then a council of 12 holding the accountability and integrity as the master council, in that space of Jedi. And there was 1225, which is the date that my daughter was born, the date that Zola was born, right, on Christmas. And so it's like, so I had all that kind of wove in right now, and it's like, well, okay.
Beautiful.
And, to speak to something, when we opened this up, Brother Russell gave a beautiful prayer to open up in ceremony, in a way. And like, I brought him up here to Enchanting Garden and I asked him which element, and he chose water. So I showed him the water temple, and then we end up here in the Magical Way Tea Temple at this point. And so to think about this water blessing, and he played this flute made out of cedar, is just like, and to feel into the timelessness of what we're speaking in a quantum morphogenic way. You know, it's really like beautiful to be in this environment, you know, to feel that and to hear it reflected back, okay, in that feedback loop that we're talking about, to be able to go in and like, okay, we have Ho'oponopono as a process, a pillar, you know, to go to see, okay, am I in alignment? Am I in integrity right now? Am I practicing and working this process of putting some water, you know, onto the fire if the house is on fire? You know, to be able to lean on the fire jet, the 4 agreements, you know, as a pillar to lean on in the reflection, you know, to lean on the Aloha spirit law as a pillar, you know, as that air pillar, you know, and then to lean on the rocks, you know, and this community that we all have come into knowing through the modernization of culture, you know, and Burning Man and those principles, and how that's brought so many weaving in the diversity of cultures from all different spiritual paths and different walks, and coming into a container and being able to be peaceful and loving and really holding that kind of sense of community, you know, right? That fire of community, that sacred fire, you know. And so that, to have that reflected back without even necessarily saying it, but knowing that it's here present is how we're, you know, weaving now. So thank you for allowing me the space to share that, you know, too, because it was like it needed to be shared, and that was the innocence that was coming up in my gene keys. I was like, all right, thank you all for letting me, you know, show up to that key and unlock that within me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, and there you go. There's your divine guidance. You created it from that intuitive knowing when you knew as you were guided, and then you have the confirmation, feeling that as you grow, as you go, as we have these reflective moments and conversations. So there you are, a living example of exactly what we're talking about. Beautiful.
Love, protocol, and peace principles.
Yes.
Right? To carry on, Raymond Powell, love, protocol. I'm not going to jack protocol.love. That's his. But we had enough conversation and alignment and resonance in our times and paths and weaving together for years that, you know, love protocol, you know, and to bring that in and to bring principles of peace, you know, here. Hallelujah. Like,
yeah, indeed. Yes, and this is bringing up for me a beautiful memory with Dr. Imoto. I had the love and pleasure in my life of being able to work with Dr. Imoto-san in 2006, about 3 years after a pretty intense car accident. And we were doing a study that I was asked to be a part of. And I was living in South Florida at the time, and then was a few other places around the world as the years went on with the study, because it continued as he was able to prove that those of us that were part of his psychic water network around the world, there were probably about 300 or so of us intuitives that he found. And our assignment, and he had the different water, you know, in the laboratory, and they would test the water, and he would, you know, give us an assignment of which water and the number of the cup and the placement of it, and our psychic energy from anywhere and all over the world at different times, and calibrated frequencies of our psychic intention going into that water, let's say from 3,000 or 9,000 miles away, who knew, right? It was just being able to measure just the psychic intent of that quantum entanglement, and really feeling into that in a scientific way. He was able to prove that just from our intentional energy, just from our auric field, and this is also how Qigong and all the other great masters of, again, all energy science, and the Jed, the original Jed of the original Damanhur in Egypt and all these magical places, we know the power of energy We know that everything is in that. So it was proven by the consciousness of water, and it's written in his book as well, a little bit about this psychic study that we did, how important it is that we keep our internal compass focused on love, focused on the love of our life, because we are bodies of water. First and foremost, in order to send that resonant field of love and the intention and speak into it, you have to feel that in yourself, because it's also cultivating through you as you share it, as you bring it out into the world. So our bodies of water are feeling what we are or responding to. They're physically part of our emotional intelligence on the center point of love. So Dr. Emoto, and definitely did a lot of Ho'oponopono with water blessings with him. It was powerful work, yes. Well,
What
that,
comes up for me, and that is what you just shared, is like having that you know, that technology, right, is so needed. Just the simple awareness of water technology, the water within ourselves, you know. And so thank you for that blessing. I would love to like really drop in, because that's the first element that we're need for the project here. You know, when you talk about, you know, what's the here and now, where am I at now? You know, where are we at now? And so what technology that we have water wise in this now time, you know, to Regenathrive, and you know, having an open field for that, because I would love for us to, in these meetings, in these councils, that we have like strategy and a stepping place, you know, a milestone met, if you will, that we can anchor in. Like, I like homework, you know, like, okay, what do I, you know, what's next, and how can we get to that place so that we can then take another one? Because right now it's literally step by step, day by day, is how we're living.
absolutely. Well, then let's take it to Regenathrive, shall we?
Let's do it. I need to give you a hosting.
Screen share. Oh, let's try that again. Yes, and Mini Wachoni, water is life. This was our chant at Standing Rock. Every sunset and every sunrise along the Cannonball River, we would stand on either side of the river and chant Mini Wachonis across the river, basically until we lost our voices or somebody had to walk away at some point. Yet as we're chanting and praying water is life, it is definitely rippling through the currents and consciousness that then turned what Standing Rock was, and you know, again, protecting the water as bodies of water ourselves, that then catalyzed the global movement of thousands upon thousands of tribes to come together and have, again, more peace resolutions beyond the conflict that was presented. And this is such a powerful success that is now finally, again, coming out to mainstream media. Some really positive, impactful movies are coming out. One that I just want to give a little ding to is On Sacred Ground, because I had the pleasure of going to the premiere about a month and a half ago when I was in Los Angeles, and I took my godson Charlie to his first red carpet event. And of course, it's on sacred ground as that beautiful initiation. So those who can look it up, please do. And for Regenathrive, the model, the foundation of Regenathrive, and where it came through as everything else in my life, is by divine guidance. Luckily, I get told what to do and I listen and do it because it tends to be right all of the time. Now, the harmonic ecosystem formula, you'll see that throughout the Regenathrive presentation here. And on this website, it's simply a keynote presentation. So we'll go through each of the elements, and I'm going to go through here pretty quickly, and anyone can go through this on their own, regenathrive.earth. And the harmonic ecosystem formula is the template that I've developed and originally received when I had an accident when I was about 8 years old that had me in what they call a coma. Yet I have an acronym for that that's more like a cosmic omnipresence of most incredible information that I was receiving in that sacred sleep. And so this is what we do. We create solutions of harmony for the highest good of all, centered around nature. Now, while Regenathrive is focused on the technical innovations and applications of infrastructure development and really setting up our communities to have those tools and hardware systems available, what the software solution is, as I like to call it, is that which I teach in the Sacred Intelligence Agency, and specifically the Mindful Mastery course for leaders and the soul of your business, is the harmonic ecosystem formula. And I'll give you a glimpse of that here because it's also encoded everywhere on the planet. It's just now distilled and offered in a way that makes sense and allows it to be a template to apply it to, again, your beliefs, your demographic, your culture, your timeline, your goals, specifically as a different unique communities come up now. And so that then allows you to say, oh, well, now that we know we believe in this and we want to create this together, which of these actual applications or tools and systems and hardware technologies are those that we want and resonate with our beliefs? Is it solar, or is it wind, or is it hydrogen energy solutions now? This is where we get to work with, again, the principles of nature and the 5 elements, like our 5 body systems. And we have water. I have ether here up at the top, and our center point of this golden grid here, and presented that with the energy body of finance, of reciprocity, of what does that mean? And you see, I spelled finance with a phi here, not an F, because this is sacred economics. This is working with the original principles of nature, again, which if you go to the rainforest or the ocean or anywhere else that is thriving in life force of nature and reciprocal energy, then you'll see that it is constantly turning over and degrading and biodegrading and creating and multi-creating all at the same time. So why do we think we have to live in a box of some conditional belief as humans, right? That's
Right.
so last lifetime, like, come on. Let's live that which we know to be true, that which we see demonstrated consistently in nature. And so here we have where every element in nature represents the industry solution for the infrastructure then that contributes to your community. And here, of course, I love to edify Damanhur as much as possible. Also, many other villages, the Harmonia Ecological Design, Tiramada Permaculture in Portugal, and green villages. They have a few different villages now around the world. So again, those of you, anyone who's watching this, check this out online at your own leisure and time. We get to water. Right? Water is life. And here's the love crystal from Dr. Emoto's studies. Here's what happens to your body, the crystallization of love in your body of water when you do acts of love, when you're in loving service, when you're not just when you're receiving love, most importantly, when you're cultivating that through yourself in order to be of loving service, then it comes back to you more and more and more. Yet here is the actual crystallized form of what that looks like from an emotional intelligence view and perspective. Now, I mean, we can go into some of these solutions if you like. There are a few different companies around the world that I've worked with and helping to create communities and or clean up even apartment buildings and sky rises and small urban zones, and all the way to brand new, startup on the ground communities. So we have the solutions. We have everything that's necessary to purify water. We even now have some amazing scientists in Asia who figured out how to reverse engineer plastics in the ocean and bring them back to the elements of resin. And so they can take the polyethylene, polypropylene, and bring that back to not just a recyclable pellet, yet the actual liquid resin that it started out with coming from the ground, to see if we can, again, reconstitute that harmony with nature. So these are just some of the solutions. And again, on the website, there are more of the deployable technologies. On the inside, our consulting offerings with Sacred Intelligence Agency, then there are a lot more, again, as it's specific to your unique culture. So first we get to figure that out. And that's what the harmonic ecosystem does, regardless of the application, whether it's a company, an individual, your family system, and of course, as that grows into more and more community aspects. So the fire, of course, we have Tesla here and Nikolai enjoying his lightning machine.
Wow.
So
Picture right there.
pardon?
That's an epic photograph or picture happening right there, that piece of art. And what inspired you to choose that piece of art in this space in your slide?
This photo specifically? Well,
Yeah.
because rather than a flame or something that is in, we all know fire in nature, what that looks like. Yet what does fire look like from the spark of intuition? And that's something else that Nicola is a very strong proponent of, is following your intuition. And it was Thomas Edison that said, intuition comes in like a spark, and this lightning bolt of information then follows. So this is similar to that energy and that conduit of the real cosmic and the life force aspect of fire, and then how that applies to the scientific and the technological applications for it. And I felt that this photo represented so much as it has to do with innovations and inventions. And in this case, the inventions that were quieted because they were not monetizable at that time. And so we're bringing back, in fact, there was an announcement that I read about 2 years ago where there were over 5,000 patents just related to Nikola Tesla's writings and inventions. 5,000 new patents on energy design and on energy systems that were open and released just a couple of years ago, that were previously held and not allowed to be patented. Well, they became trade secrets, or now, you know, a lot of different solutions on the planet. And I feel that this photo also represents a living legacy of that which so many people have studied and believe in and know, that infinite energy, from powering the pyramids to, you know, our internet now, the carryover of that came from so many years and decades and lifetimes of scientists trying different ways and formulas that, again, the center point of it, watching nature, following nature's principles, going with that which you're recreating as a harmonic system based on how and what and why nature does it. So this lightning bolt device and machine was actually a very calming essence. If you can see him sitting there just casually reading, like, no big deal, there's lightning all around me, like normal. And so they added in a little bit of color here to bring a little more expression to that, and the importance of the well, I guess energy in its freeness is a whole nother word and concept, yet really energy in its infinite reciprocal form of our own creative energy and intelligence, and again, how that applies to the micro and bioturbines that we now have access to, that are inventions, sparks of intuition.
Oh, wow.
I gotta share one piece there that on lightning in the Peruvian shamanic tradition, especially in the Quechua tradition up in the Sacred Valley. In Quechua, there's this phenomenon called Saiwa. There's Saiwa, and Saiwa means the mystical lightning bolt of spiritual illumination.
Yes, please. Saiwa.
Saiwa.
It was just weeks ago.
You were just in Peru? Yeah. And as the cosmology goes, which is what I'm very endeared to, is that for the highest level healer shaman in the tradition, so the Alto Masayo, And in order, and this is such a natural principle, like you can't choose to be that. You can think you can choose, but you don't. It's like selected by nature. It's nature, in that particular being is struck by lightning 3 times, not once, 3 times. So you can't sit there. I choose to be. It just doesn't really work that way. It's not even a self with a capital S. So it's like you have to have that affinity, that relationship, that calling, if you will, to be that. So it's like you cannot be in the wrong shoes. Like if that's your deal, that's your deal. So one of my teachers is not the Messiah and learning, through really it's a transmission oriented, as you know, I'm sure you know, transmission culture, to really feel that presence, to feel the lightning of one's being. So thank you for everything that you really stand, literally that where you stand, where you're coming from is really, it's such a living inspiration. I'm inspired. I feel illuminated in our communion. And I love also, I say that like always breaking down communication, come into union. Like that's all, if we're not coming to union, we're just blowing hot air around in our communication. Are we communicating or are we blowing hot air around? So thank you for your communion. Thank you for our communion. Oh,
Thank you.
That's church, right?
Very
No. We out here having, it's church. This is the body of Christ. This the consciousness embodied in form that we always have been. Remembering that and to really be in ceremony and in communion in this way, no separation between us and these leaves and trees and bees and all the energies. And so thank you for grounding in and bringing so much into a form that we can process and see and feel and bring into our senses, into these bodies, and the next bit of our continued work, together, and how can we support each other is always a good question to ask as Jedi, as being support and pillars, is how can we support each other? And that's another big integral piece and reason of having these conversations, is also to be in a space of like, where are our needs? How can we support each other so that we're sharing resources within the framework of this community, because that's true community there. There was conversation in the meeting earlier today around time bank. I know that's a big part of the Regenathrive ecosystem as well, and how to bring more participant energy through contribution, in that sacred reciprocity and the gifting economy, and what's needed, because that's where we're coming from and also moving to at the same time. We were talking about this bridge earlier. It's like being a bridge builder. I get to be in 3D and 5D and in between in the transmissions of the 4, and so how we're, our actions supporting one another, and to share these out within our community, so that if there's those needs can be met, we can tune in and say, hey, they are here because they already have been. And knowing that is a big step for us in humanity right now. Knowing that these systems are already in place, that they're deployable, that they're regenerative, that they're thought out with ancestral, indigenous, aboriginal origin foundations that are all of us, because we're all earth humans here in this body, and this is what we're remembering is to be in this body here, and to come in and to really village. We speak of this culture, the cultures that is a village, and what it takes. It requires a village to raise the children of now and tomorrow and these next generations. And that's also what this is for, for the next generations to be able to feel our hearts and to know that we're here in support of them, and that we have been working on these technologies so that they have something to be able to work with right here and now.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And indeed, and everyone, you know what? All of the brilliant beings around the planet, all of those of us who came here in mission on purpose and stuck to it and doing the work, right? We knew, right? There were many, many, whatever we want to call them, dark nights and days of just getting through it, just keeping those divine blinders on and following what you know is yours to do, even if you don't know or have confirmations at the time that you're on path by other people, right? There's so many of these inventors and innovative companies that I've now integrated with that they didn't know there would ever be someone that would come along and be their ethereal cheerleader to the world and help their invention get to where it's in service most. Well, everyone has been working on this for decades and generations and lifetimes, and we're all ready. We're all ready in different ways and different levels and capacities, from the technological solutions and hardware applications to those who are really devoted to doing the work to create the new cultures of our conscious communities. And that's what's also really beautiful that we get to celebrate, is we all came here for the big dance, and it's party time as far as I'm concerned. So get to playlist on.
Let's go. You know, they still Jedi DJ first, you know, is where we start off, right? Gotta start off in harmony, you know, making beautiful music, magical music together. So thank you for making music today in this, getting the band back together. We are on our way to go see Jaws, which is one of the largest waves in the world, happening now.
And it's going off. I don't know, dude, it's going off. Like, this is one of those moments. And
Wow.
we went to another break yesterday, and there were big waves. And it's like, you guys, it's 3 times the size over at Jaws. And today is the peak. It's right here. So this is a very auspicious moment. There is a tsunami of love hitting right now.
Wow, I just felt it. Boom. Wow, that is beautiful. It's also bringing up a poem that I wrote called The Last Wave, that was the last wave I ever surfed. Thank you, Mom. I got the memo.
Yes, I feel you.
Might share that next time. It's being turned into a spoken word musical ensemble. So yeah, it's quite sweet. I look forward to seeing video and or photos of Jaws. Perhaps you'll share it on some platform with your community here, and your brothers enjoy that. Look forward to catching up with you and speaking with you on this platform some other time as it's appropriate. And thank you. Thank you for sharing both of your hearts and your wisdom.
And in good standing and good ceremony and good prayer, if you, Brother Russell would love to close us out with this sacred flute medicine, this speaking of harmony and breath, and share this aloha together, and stay in communion. You know? So
yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, honored to be a carrier of flute medicine, and remembering, I was hoping to be coming to remembrance of being the hollow bone, as we were talking about. There's a beautiful piece of wisdom that was like, we're not the water, we're the water carriers. We have the honor of being able to inhabit water. So in the deepest ways within the heart, the waters of love, we take all of the incredible wisdom and prayers and medicine that's flown through this communion and all sacred communions. May all these prayers come to fruition in the most glorious way, most beneficial way for the highest good of all sentient beings, all sentient life, now and always, as it always has been, always will be, in the eternal now. Oh,
Oh,
Mm. Mm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your beautiful gift.
Mm.
Mhm. Mhm.
hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Thank you both. See you soon.
Thanks.
oh. Get it?